This happened one summer night out in the Nevada desert. My buddy Matt and I were driving back from a camping trip near Pyramid Lake. We'd spent a couple of days out there fishing, hiking, and stargazing, so we weren't exactly in a rush to get back to civilization. The desert night was clear and quiet, and we decided to take the scenic route, passing near some of the restricted areas around Groom Lake. It wasn't the first time we'd been out there, and the wide open landscape had always fascinated me. The stars, the eerie silence, the sense that you're truly alone. We were driving down a stretch of road with no lights and barely any other cars. Around midnight, we noticed a strange glow up ahead. At first, I thought it was the headlights of an oncoming car. But the light wasn't moving in a way I'd ever seen before. It would flash bright, then dim, then flicker again, hovering in place about 100 yards from the road. Matt pulled the truck over, and we both got out, just staring at this light in total silence. I remember feeling my skin prickle, like the air itself was charged with static. The light was bright enough to illuminate the ground around it, but it didn't look like any aircraft or drone I'd ever seen. I tried to rationalize it, telling myself it was probably a military test. After all, we were close to Area 51. But then, it moved in a way that defied all logic. The light split into 3 smaller orbs that began moving in perfect sync, forming a triangle that rotated and spun. Matt and I exchanged a nervous glance, both too stunned to speak. It was mesmerizing, almost beautiful, but there was something unsettling about it too. Suddenly, one of the orbs shot straight up into the sky, disappearing in an instant. The remaining 2 floated towards us, as if studying us. And then, we saw it. Just beyond the lights, something tall and slender emerged from the darkness. At first, I thought it was just a trick of the light, maybe a shadow cast by the orbs. But as it came closer, I could make out its form. A being, almost humanoid in shape, but impossibly thin and long-limbed. It moved with an unnatural smoothness, like it was gliding instead of walking. My heart was pounding, and I can feel Matt's hand gripping my shoulder, but I couldn't look away. The figure stopped about 20 feet from us, just standing there, illuminated by the glow of the 2 remaining orbs. It was hard to make out the details, but I can see that its skin was pale, almost translucent, with large, dark eyes that seemed to absorb the light rather than reflect it. And then, in my mind, I heard something. I can't explain it, but it felt like words, like a thought being placed directly in my head. It wasn't a language, but I understood the message. Don't fear, we're only observing. The voice in my head was calm, almost soothing, but that just made it more unsettling. Matt and I stood frozen, unable to speak, unable to move. The figure tilted its head, as if acknowledging us, and then turned back towards the lights. Just like that, it vanished, fading into the desert darkness. The orbs lingered a moment longer, then shot off in opposite directions, disappearing into the night. We didn't say a word to each other for what felt like hours. We just stood there, staring into the spot where it had stood, trying to process what we'd just seen. Finally, Matt whispered, Did you hear it too?" I nodded, feeling the weight of what we'd just experienced settling in. The drive back was the longest, quietest trip of my life. To this day, we don't talk about it much, but every now and then, I'll catch Matt looking at the night sky like he's waiting to see those lights again. And honestly, so am I. My friends and I were on a road trip, and we planned to make a stop in Rachel, Nevada, just for fun. You know, the whole extraterrestrial highway thing. We were college kids and figured it'd be a laugh. Maybe see some UFO-themed gift shops. But by the time we got close, we were running on fumes, and the only place to fill up was this isolated gas station on a dusty strip of road. It was the kind of place you'd see in a horror movie. Old, run down, and totally empty except for the clerk behind the counter. As we were filling up, we noticed this black SUV roll in and park right next to us. The windows were tinted so dark you couldn't see a thing inside, and honestly, we didn't think much of it until the two men stepped out. Both of them were wearing black suits and sunglasses, completely out of place for the middle of nowhere in Nevada. They didn't say a word to us, they just walked into the station. Through the window, we can see them speaking quietly to the cashier, who looked visibly nervous. Then, one of them turned around, glanced right at us, and then looked back at his partner. They finished their conversation, and just before heading out, one of the men actually approached us. He looked us over and then leaned in close, saying in this cold, flat voice, "You didn't see anything out here tonight." I remember his expression. It was like he was looking right through me. The moment they drove off, we all kind of stood there, too stunned to speak. I finally asked the cashier if he knew who those two were. His hands were still shaking as he ran my credit card, and he mumbled something like, "Government guys. They're around here a lot. Just keep your heads down." That whole encounter left us with chills. We left as quickly as possible, and to this day, my friends and I still wonder what exactly those men were doing out there, and if they'd been watching us.